What's up, Lions fans? Boy, oh boy, we have some big news that just came out this weekend. And it always seems to happen while I'm at work. What is it about you, Brad Holmes, about always wanting to make these big moves on Saturdays? So, last weekend, the Lions finally traded Matt Stafford. And in return, they got a third-round pick for this year, a first-round pick for the year after that, 2022, and then a first-round pick in 2023 from the LA Rams. But one more key piece to this is the Detroit Lions also got Jared Goff. Now, there's been a lot of debate, pretty heated debate, on one of the biggest trades in NFL history. The debate is whether the Lions won this trade or the Rams won this trade. I'm not necessarily going to talk about the Rams, winning this trade because they gave up a lot, but Matt Stafford is a great quarterback. Just talking about our situation right now with the Lions. If you ask me, personally, I would have preferred just to get a few first-rounders and then that's it. But maybe this was the best offer they had available. I don't know. I don't have any good sources saying that any team offered them anything better. So maybe this is the best they were going to get. And they did get two first-rounders, which is a very, very big deal. But the issue is Jared Goff. Now look, Jared Goff is not a bad quarterback. Jared Goff is the kind of quarterback that can have a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He's solid. He's a great game manager. He's accurate. He did a fairly good job with the LA Rams. But he's definitely nothing spectacular and certainly is a downgrade from Matt Stafford. And also there's a reason why Goff was a part of this trade deal. Let's just be real. But the biggest problem with Goff is his contract. So it's 4 years, $133 million. That's about $33.5 million this year. But the big issue is he's eating up a lot of salary cap space this year. And his dead cap, you're not cutting him this year. $45 million this year. We'd have to pay him if we cut him. And we already are still suffering from the dead cap from Matt Stafford. So definitely nothing else is going to happen with Jared Goff. And Coach Campbell already said that Goff is going to be a part of the plan for the next few years. He's not going to be just another trade piece. So here's what I think about it. At first, I was thinking, I don't know, do we really want Jared Goff or do we take a quarterback in this round? Then I thought about it more, and actually, this was the exact right trade for the Detroit Lions. They hit the money. They hit the jackpot on this trade. I'm not going to say the Rams didn't get what they needed because they did, but the Lions also got what they needed. First off, I know they're probably going to be late first-round picks because, the Rams are probably going to be a playoff team or close to a playoff team. I don't see them finishing anywhere below 10-6 or 11-5, so they're probably going to be picking from about 20 to 32. So you get a couple of lower first-round picks, but still, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And you consider the fact that Brad Holmes generally does well late in the draft, and he's very good at evaluating talent. That was his biggest skill set coming out of Los Angeles. The key thing is do what you're good at and get as many draft picks as possible. If that's where this team is going to hit, you want to get all that draft capital you can. And look, the Lions don't have a lot of picks this year. They only have 6 picks. And before they only had 5, but thanks to the trade, they're going to have an extra third-round pick, which could be huge. So now you have tons of capital for the next few years. And I think that's obvious that's a good thing. Now here's the bad part, is that because of Jared Goff's contract, it kind of puts you at a bind with free agency for this season. And they're going to have to restructure a lot of deals if they're going to re-sign Golliday or even franchise tag him. I mean, right now the Lions are $10 million under the cap. And, here's what's going to happen. They're either going to re-sign Golliday only, they're going to re-sign Jones only, or neither of them are going to be signed. I think that's probably what's going to happen. And unfortunately, I think Romeo Orkwara, despite having a great season, I don't think they're going to have nearly enough money to have him unless they franchise tag him. And they're going to have to make a heck of a lot of moves, possibly move Trufant, restructure some contracts. Fact is, if we just got the first-round picks, we probably could have been able to re-sign one of those guys, and it wouldn't have been such a hassle to get one of them back. So essentially, the Lions got a couple of first-round picks. That's true, but they're probably going to have to sacrifice something as a result. I don't think they're going to re-sign both Orkwara and Golliday. It's going to be one or the other or neither. And I personally don't think Jones is going to be here. So you're going to lose something. But when I think more about this, the Lions aren't trying to win next year. The Lions are looking for the long-term future. And you think, well, why the heck would you need a guy on this big contract? Well, here's the big part about the deal. After 2 years, Jared Goff has no dead cap money. That means the Lions can cut him and not pay him a single cent. So for the next 2 seasons, the Lions are kind of in a bind, but after that, they're not stuck with him. And I think that's a very good thing. So they have a couple of years to evaluate Jared Goff. And the next thing I thought about is, you know, you really don't need to draft a quarterback this year. It seems like everybody's all hyped up on Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson from BYU. Everyone's all hyped up on these quarterbacks. But here's my take. Would you rather get the third or fourth best quarterback this season, or would you rather get the best quarterback next season? Because I'm going to tell you something. This team is going to be terrible next year. And I'm not complaining. I'm not blaming it on anybody. The people whose fault it is, they're out of the building. This team is going to be bad next season. Our personnel defensively is the worst in the league. And our offense, we just lost our best offensive player, and we got downgraded at quarterback. Albeit maybe not a huge downgrade, but definitely a downgrade. And we're probably losing Golliday or Jones. We're losing Orkwara. We're not going to be able to sign anybody. This team next year is going to be terrible. And that's where I think they could use that to their advantage, because there's one guy coming out of the draft class next year that could be really good and could turn around this franchise. And his name is Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler is the quarterback at Oklahoma, and I trust Lincoln Riley with developing quarterbacks. I think he's done a fantastic job, and Rattler is a great athlete. He's got a great arm. And the fact is he's playing in a system that has worked in the NFL. I think, Mahomes, even Jared Goff, they've proven it. The air raid works in the NFL, or it translates pretty well, which people used to think it didn't. So what you could do in this year's draft instead, get Micah Parsons, get Devontae Smith. You either revamp the linebacking core or you revamp the receiver core. And I think there's plenty of options to do that this year. It's a pretty deep receiver class. You also have Rondale Moore. You have Jamar Chase. You have Rashad Bateman from Minnesota. You have a lot of options, and even Eskridge and Dazz Newsome from North Carolina. Chris Olave from Ohio State. There's so many good options this year for wide receiver. And linebacker too. You got, obviously, Micah Parsons is the guy I hope we're getting, but there's also plenty of other options there too. So to me, I would focus on those two things and maybe getting a couple corners too. I really like this guy out of South Carolina. His name is J.C. Horn. He did a pretty fine job against Devontae Smith when I saw South Carolina play Alabama. So if we get him in the second round of this year, you get a couple of speedsters at receiver. You pretty much tell Davis and Tavai goodbye, because I don't think either one of them is good enough to play in this league. And then you got Collins that can be a mentor for the linebacking core. You're doing the right thing if you want to have a championship team within 3 to 4 years, which is where this organization is thinking, and that's exactly what they should be thinking. And also, when you get Rattler, you don't have to start him immediately either, because you have Jared Goff, who is a solid option at quarterback. It could sort of be like a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers situation. So the Lions, even with a little bit of inflexibility with the salary cap, the Lions still have a lot going for them. And, that's right, you get 4 first-round picks the next 2 years. So, that's huge. There's a lot of room to grow for this team. And then 3 years from now, if they decide they want to move on from Goff and, transfer the reins over to Rattler or Surratt from North Carolina, if they end up getting him, I think that'd be a great way to go. You just throw a quarterback out there, you could ruin his confidence. I am a fan of, having him sit for a year, sort of learn the verbiage, and then go out there whenever they're ready. Because as we've seen, it's worked. I'm glad with this trade for the Lions, and I'm optimistic about it. The one downside is, yeah, you don't get to keep Kenny Golliday, but you know what? There's not a lot of pressure to draft a quarterback this year, and I don't think you need to. Why would you draft the third best quarterback in this class when, almost all these quarterbacks turn out to be failures, but the first quarterback picked oftentimes is the best one. I would much rather have Spencer Rattler than, Trey Lance or Zach Wilson, who, yeah, you know what, they put up good numbers, but look at the competition they faced. And I'm not saying they're going to be good or bad. We really don't know. I think it's more likely that Rattler has a great NFL career than those two. So I'd rather get someone I pretty much know is going to start day one, like Parsons or Smith or Devontae Smith. Those are really the two that I'm looking at. And then you also got Jamar Chase. You got the guy out of Miami. He's a defensive tackle. Greg Rousseau. You could get one of those guys. Develop your position players. And, you're going to have a lot of draft space next year. So this team, if they play the cards right and they hit on the draft, this could be a good team in about 2 or 3 years. Probably more likely 3 to 4. But I get the feeling that there's a direction with this team. And maybe Jared Goff turns out to be really good, and maybe we don't need a quarterback at all. So you know what you do? You get him those explosive playmakers for the next couple of years. I think it's well worth a shot. And then after a few years, you'll have some more salary cap flexibility. You sort of weed out the guys who are failures from the Detroit Patriots experiment. And then, you surround Goff with playmakers. You revamp the whole defense. Then maybe you can play around a little bit in free agency. This team is doing the rebuild correctly. And the fact is, you don't need to have Chase Daniel starting at quarterback this year. That just wouldn't work out. Maybe they could re-sign Golliday. I think it'd be great if they could do that. That way, when they add a receiver in this draft, they're making the receiving core one of the best in the league, as opposed to Golliday leaving and then, it becoming just a mediocre receiving core. So overall, well done. Well done, Brad Holmes. I give you A- for this first trade only because of the contract and flexibility. But we got the job done, and it's very important. We're in a much better spot than the Houston Texans, and I think people have a lot more respect for the Lions right now than the Texans and their situation with Deshaun Watson. So there's my thoughts. I'm really excited about this NFL draft. I want to get to that. I also want to talk about Michigan and all the coaching hires that they've made, because they've made a lot of moves without firing Jim Harbaugh. So I want to get to all that. But I just want to get my thoughts out about this big blockbuster trade, arguably one of the biggest in NFL history. And I also have my reactions coming in the next video. I'll upload those. I made them on Saturday. I was pretty shocked, as you can imagine. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening, and y'all have a good night.